What's up?
What's up?
We all back. You good over there, Dust? Oh, he's muted again.
Dust,
It's
you're
doing
muted,
that.
man.
It did that thing last time too. Still muted? You'll have to leave and come back. Leave
Hello.
and come back. That happened last time to him. I don't know what's going on with his stuff.
He forgot how to get
gosh. Probably. He won't know what he's doing. We don't know. We haven't heard from Cal. We don't know if he'll show up today or not. Haven't heard from him. Well, as y'all can see, I know there's only 3 people in here right now. Here he is. He's back.
Took me a
That
minute.
better?
Yeah.
I wonder why that keeps happening.
It went in during the 30-second thing. I could see it, but I lost all sound. I don't know why.
It mutes my mic during that too, but when it comes on,
I couldn't hear the music.
Well, what I was saying was,
just checking.
What I was saying was, once we get more people on here, we'll kind of discuss what we're gonna be letting the viewers dictate what we talk about. So we want y'all to comment anything that y'all want to talk about topic wise, any debates, kind of open to anything besides bashing certain people. That's the only thing we don't want to do was talk negative about anybody, because that's not what we like to do.
And we don't really want to talk about live scope.
Hey, I practiced a little bit this week. I got a little, I kind of got myself.
Do you go out this week?
Thursday morning, I went out for like literally 2 hours on Warriors by myself, just kind of get away, and really didn't catch anything. But I was messing around with live scope and kind of, I'm getting better at it.
I was out Thursday too.
That's what Rob said. You went to Boone?
Watauga and Boone. I went to both. They freaking ate on Boone. You should have went to Boone. You would have caught some on Boone.
I thought about it, but I know with Patrick Henry, I kind of have the lake to myself.
Yeah.
So
I went to
Watauga.
I went to Watauga till 1:30, and then met Cal at Boone, and we fished from 1:30 to dark. And we had close to 17 on Boone.
17 ounces?
17 pounds. Tim, if I don't work, I will be fishing Boone. I'll be out there with y'all on Boone. Started a job this week, so I don't know what they'll have me doing if I work Saturday or not. So hopefully I don't fish. Because if they bite like anything they did on Thursday, it should be a dang fun tournament. But I know there's more people in here. If you didn't hear, leaving it up to y'all. You will start with a 5-pound penalty. Funny. I don't need that. I need all the weight I can get.
I think you need to start with a 10-pound penalty.
Yeah.
Guys said I'll be on Boone. They allow jet boats. Yeah. I'm pretty sure they don't have any rules against not allowing anybody to not fish or anything like that. But first, I guess we can kind of first discuss on if we fished this week. But I know the answer to Robbie's is he didn't.
Robbie's
need
still
to ask Rob.
Well, he'll be in there in like 1 week in March. Until then, he won't be out until April.
Yeah, he gone for.
Well, I got Morristown Marine to fish sometime.
So first was kind of I fished Watauga Saturday, finished second with 1790. Couldn't find another big one. Had 2 good ones, just couldn't find any other ones to go with it.
You getting them early or kind of midday?
I caught my first big one. I had a limit and within like 15 minutes, but I only had one big one. And then I only had 14 pounds all the way up until the last hour. I literally culled my last fish at 2:45 and we were doing it at 5. I mean, at 2:45 and we were doing it at 3. I'm sorry. So it died for me at like 10 o'clock, and I couldn't cull anything until then. Lucked into a few, pulled into a spot, and caught another good green one. And I actually had 3 fish in my bag that were over spots that were over 3 pounds, and I only was able to weigh 2 of them because one of them died. So I had to weigh a 2-pound smallmouth. So if that one spot wouldn't have died, I would have had 3 spots in my bag that were over 3 pounds.
That's a pretty good bag. That's like Smith Lake kind of good.
Yeah, like they were from big. But we have planned on being there, but not sure if we will be in the jet or the rocket. Well, I don't know. Is there many places that on Boone that would need a jet? I mean, I'm sure if you go way up in the rivers and stuff, but I don't know how it is on Boone way up in the rivers this time of the year.
I have no clue. I've only been on Boone one time.
Oh, you old man. Well, what do y'all want to talk about first? You want to talk about the MLF? You want to talk about bass?
Let's go MLF, and then we can go into bass.
MLF, okay. MLF. Oh, dadgum Dustin Connell beat it with 112 pounds and 4 ounces, but 36 fish.
So I kind of asked y'all offline, and that way the viewers can hear. At bass, if you break the century mark, it's a big deal. You get a belt and everything. MLF is kind of a little more common. At what weight would you hold as high as prestige as 100 pounds in bass?
You mean in MLF? Yeah, like compare.
Well, I mean,
like what would be as good as catching 100 pounds of bass on MLF?
Yeah,
because all you can catch 100 pounds. It's still impressive, but it's not as impressive as catching 100 pounds in 4 days with only weighing in 5 fish.
Yeah.
It's been done too many times.
Yeah.
I mean, at most they're weighing in what 20 fish, and
Yeah.
I mean Dustin did 100 today, and I think he had more around 30 fish or something today.
36.
Yeah.
So what would his best 5 have been?
How you gonna figure that out?
Gavin with math.
Gavin with math.
I feel confident already.
Me too.
I see the wheels are turning.
You know which buttons to push on that calculator?
His best 5 on his average. If you go by his average, his best 5 would have went 15.5. But he had a 7-pounder, so I know he would have had over that. But
yeah,
if you took his average,
I mean, he might have had a 30-pound bag, right? Basically.
I wish it did a whole detail of like all the fish he caught. You have to join MLF Fan Pass to see every one he's caught.
Which is crazy because we're all MLF fishermen.
Which we all fish the BFLs and pay a $100 membership, ain't it?
I don't even get my magazine no more. Y'all get a magazine?
I got a magazine. I think with that win, he just came into being in the millions of tournament wins.
Hey, he switched from Guggen this year too to Rapala.
Yeah, the Rapala.
Yeah.
The fish are definitely not biting on Boone. Well, I don't know if we just got lucky or pulled up on a daggone lot of them, but me and Cal caught them pretty good on Thursday, but I think it was more luck than anything because we caught all of them off of one stretch and we tried running other stuff and didn't catch a daggone plane. So I'm not a fan of Wheeler, but imagine catching 91 pounds on day 1 and not meeting crab. That is true. That's the sucky part about it is that on bass and stuff, you kind of get an idea of who's going to have a chance, but you never know until the last day who's got a chance.
Yeah.
On bass. I mean, on MLF. Because, like you said, Jake Wheeler freaking blew it out of the waters the first 2 days, but then finished 4th. And
which, I mean, it has its pros and cons. I mean, if you're not the guy catching 90 pounds, then, you know, you've still got a chance.
I don't know. I don't like the all fish counts.
Well,
it's not fun to watch.
It ain't fun to watch. And it's not fun to watch the best 5 because those guys that's at the bottom, it's hard for them to catch up sometimes. And then for somebody that's in like 2nd or 3rd that has to catch a 5-pounder to upgrade.
Because the difference between 1st and 10th was he had 112 and 10th had 28 pounds with 10 fish.
So 72 pounds, 75.
Yeah. Yeah. So
almost lost by a century belt.
And 2nd place was only 68 pounds.
Yeah, I seen that. That's funny.
So
it is. It's got. You know, when it first come out, it was exciting to watch them catch fish like that. But now it's like
it would. I think it would be more exciting if you went to a place that. I'm not gonna explain this. Almost like a Douglas, where catching a big one's not as often as like it's more rare.
Yeah.
But what would y'all think about something like on championship day doing best 5 for that day?
I think that's what they should have done. I think they should have done the best, like the 5, like the last day is your best 5.
Yeah, and you bring them to the scales.
Yeah.
Don't weigh them, bring them to the scale.
Because, I mean, like, as a competitor, I would hate the format of, like, after I just won a tournament, I go to get my trophy and I have no fish to show for it. You know what I mean? Like, you stand on the stage and you just talk, and there's hardly anybody there because people come up to watch the fish be weighed in, not to listen to you talk.
And with that, I mean, think about the dude in 10th place. You know, about 11 o'clock, you're down 60 pounds. Okay. You know,
Yeah.
at least that way, everybody's still trying to give it the best the whole rest of the day. Not saying he wasn't going to give it his best, but we've all been there. It gets psyched out.
And it sucks for the viewership too, because there's a I feel like there's a lot of competitors out there that catch just enough to get by until the championship day. And so the viewership's like seeing a lot of good catches don't come until the last day. Just because everybody don't run all their good stuff, just get enough to get into the top 10. You know what I mean? But
Well, I asked y'all this question earlier, none of you's answered this. But you look at when the elites go to a lake after they fish the tournament, and then they leave, the lake kind of goes into a downhill spiral because of the fish being caught. I wonder how that affects catching that many fish in one day affects the fishery after they leave.
Well, it's the best five guy. I mean, are the best five guys kind of catching close to that? They're just not getting weighed though. Would there be that?
I don't know, but
difference,
your strategy comes up different. You don't
True.
go out there trying to catch a wad of them. You go out there trying to catch the best 5.
Right.
Or
Yeah,
if you find a wad of them, you just catch 5 and then you go try to find a big one.
After they leave.
I don't think it can.
The regular Joe Blow
definitely
goes
can't
out
do
there, too.
anything good for it.
Yeah, I think it's going to take a while to settle.
Just today, there was 194 fish caught. Just today.
And that ain't even counting the ones that didn't
get weighed.
Yeah.
Had to be 2 pounds.
I could go through here and see all of them, but that's going to be a lot of adding.
Yeah. That's a lot of fish. I'd hate to be a tournament trying to follow that up.
Yeah. Well, if you had your club tournament the following week, next weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would suck. Somebody said I didn't watch any of it, but it looks like Toledo is coming back, which means Rayburn should have less pressure. Tim said yes, a live weigh-in is needed in every single competitive bass event. I agree. And then a lot. I saw it firsthand on Bruin. And going back to the weigh-in thing, like even with the opens where they don't broadcast until the last day, I still watch the weigh-in every day. You know what I mean? Because Fast Track only certain people are able to do it, or service or whatever. And I still like to watch it, even if I'm not watching it. I listen to it. And I feel like if other events, like if they did this, because they're literally the only trail that doesn't have a live weigh-in because they don't have fish to weigh in. So,
and it would make it more exciting if they did like a bass track and not give you the actual weight of what they've got, like the elites do with their catches, where they just kind of guesstimate it.
Yeah, like the bass tracker. Hey, it's 3 pounds. Put that in there.
I think they are following them. Let me see.
Who's following?
Yeah, elites. Their first tournament's on Toledo Bend. That's one thing I don't like. I hate how they both go to the same lakes. They did that a lot last year. What's y'all's thoughts on that? Them going to the same lakes as the elites, or
is the elites
February the 22nd to the 25th?
When does their schedule? Who schedules first?
I don't know. It all really depends on who comes out first. Because I mean, just because they come out at different times doesn't mean they were already planned at a certain time. Apply this to Boone. In late 90s, we used to have 4 rodeos a week, and that's not counting other clubs and tournament trails. Yes, even locally, when you got lakes that have a bunch of tournament trails on it, it does ruin the lake. And I kind of see that in South Holston right now. I know they had a really, 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 really successful day Saturday, and the weights were really high. But
That
the
was a 3
past 2
fish
years,
limit, wasn't it?
yeah, almost 14 pounds of 3 fish.
Right.
Dylan, he's the guy that come, but I know people that went out today and they said it was nothing like it was Saturday. But I think it's affecting it because the weights that you've seen the last 2 years on South Holston were outrageous, and there was a tournament out there every weekend and every day of the weekend, and now the weights are starting to kind of semi down. Which there's still some good weights going out, but it's not as consistent as it was the past 2 years. And we're kind of seeing that with Watauga too. Last year there was a crap ton of tournaments, and now the weights on Watauga is starting to go down. Now is that all just fishing pressure from tournaments? Maybe, but I do know this time of the year with fishing tournaments, there's been a lot of dead fish being released and or fish dying because they ain't being properly cared and fizzed because the fish are getting pressured and they're going deeper than they have in past years. We're catching them out of 70, 90 foot of water, which I know there was people usually caught them out of that deep, but you didn't have to fish that deep in the past. From my experience and the people I talked to, you didn't have to fish that deep to compete, but now you do. And so it's killing the population of fish because they're floating everywhere. So I think that does, yeah. And South Holston, the one I fished last Saturday with Dad, when I put my fish back, it was like a daggone graveyard. Me and this other guy went down there and tried to fizz the ones that we could reach and get to, and some of them were already dead. So that affects it too. I think that's almost why you're seeing a Go ahead.
You've got a whole lot more fishermen out there fishing now in the past since COVID. Look, everybody went and bought boats. You're seeing a lot more people on the water versus what it used to be years ago too.
Yeah. So Tim, this is something. I think it's all. I don't know. I disagree and agree. I don't think that fish fill live scope is what people think. My reasoning of that is because I can't tell you how many fish I have caught right underneath my boat, like right underneath my boat, and how many fish have followed my bait to where I could see them with my own two eyes right there at the boat. I don't think they feel it as much. And the reason why I say that, and this is the reason why I believe this, if you put 2D, if you turn your 2D on or any of your down imaging or anything on outside of water, you'll hear tick, 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 tick. Like Dustin, if you plugged up your unit right now and turn on down scan, you would hear the tick, 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 tick.
Right.
Live scope don't make no sound outside the water. So they can't be hearing it. But yes, if you get I think fish knew you were around before live scope was even there. I think fish sensed you. I think they hear the trolling motor more than they hear live scope or feel it. Because I can see when I like turn my trolling motor that they'll hear it and spook or whatever. But I don't know. I think the fish are deeper than they've ever been this year on South Holston and Watauga. But that's just a debate. That's just my opinion. It's an opinion thing. But I don't think live scope affects the fish as much. I just think the reason why we think it affects it is because we've been fishing for the fish that haven't been pressured, and now that we are fishing for the fish that are being pressured, they're starting to see baits more, so they're getting used to the stuff as like the shallow fish was. You know what I mean? Like they look more pressured because they are getting more pressured because we're fishing for them. You know what I mean? Just like shallow fish. If you turn your live scope off, but you've been like everybody fishes on the bank, those fish are going to start getting finicky because they've been beat on. I think it goes back to that.
It'll switch back because them fish are getting pressured out there deep. Eventually, the guys that's shallow will be back up toward the top. It'll
but, huh?
So just send them all back to me.
Here's the thing, and on certain lakes, I just think in certain times of the year it's hard to compete shallow. Now, I'm not saying every lake, but here's my thing. If I went to South Holston and I went cranking this time of the year, I don't feel like you can compete as much as you could if you were live scoping. Now, Watauga, that's a different story because there's a bunch of green ones you can catch, but the green ones are also pushing out because almost all the fish that was weighed in the top three was large, not mostly largemouth, but the guy that won had largemouth. Jonathan, they tied for first. He had majority largemouth. It's just, I feel like certain lakes, it's hard to compete when you go shallow. I feel like there's this time of the year. Now, certain times of year, yeah, you could definitely win at shallow. Now, can you compete in like a bigger tournament? Yes, but I don't think it's like Del Hollow. If you went shallow, Robbie, you know this. If we went shallow during that regional, you would have got your dadgum butt kicked in.
I don't even know if I could have caught a keeper shallow.
Exactly.
You could have spots, but that'd have been about it.
Maybe.
I know this because I caught one. And
So
there was more over there. I just didn't get a chance to fish for.
I just think from the back in the day when people were struggling this time of the year, and like I was talking to Watson's, and this guy made a good point. He said those fish that we're catching out there suspended are the same fish that then people were catching on a floating fly. Because when people see scoping and think about scoping, I'm not always out there in the middle of nowhere. I'm usually following contour lines, or I'm following flats, or I'm falling up against a bluff wall. That's what I'm doing.
In the middle of nowhere.
I'm not around here usually.
Hey, I'm on a boat with him, Rob. You have too. It's out in the middle of nowhere, spinning circles.
I thought we was on the ocean.
I know. I was like, "Daggone, I should have took some of that motion sickness stuff."
Yeah. I wore them little bracelets and put them little dots behind my ear.
I just stay shallow year round. If I bust, I bust. It's what I know how to do, and I'll die on that hill. And I understand that. And listen, that's why I went to Boone on Thursday, because I was tired of looking down and live scoping all the time. Like, I'm speaking for me. I don't live scope. I love it. I do like to do it. But if I could win some other way, I would like to do that as well. You know what I mean? Like, if I know that I could go win cranking and I was on the fish to go cranking, I'm going to go cranking. But I'll live scope this time of the year because I know that's how I'm going to have to try to compete. You know what I mean? Like, it's not necessarily I'm just going to die by live. Now, back in the day, I just loved it. I was addicted to it. Now I'm like, wait, I'm tired of looking down at the damn screen all day long.
Everybody gonna have neck problems, back problems.
Yeah, like
vision problems because they've stared at that screen so long.
I get you one of them poles at you and bring it up about chest high.
Oh yeah,
put it down so much no more.
I mean, yeah, they didn't, but there's a lot of fish, Tim, that I've caught where I'm like, for example, Dustin, when I lost that big one with you when I thought it was a lake trout. You remember how I was positioned?
Yeah.
I was up against that bank.
Yeah, because I was
coming out in front of me. Yeah, I was up against the bank and I was paralleling the bank and I was live scoping.
Yep.
Those fish that people are catching tight lining, it's almost sometimes the same. I thought it was a lake trout.
Yeah. Oh crap.
But yeah, there is some that you find out there in the middle of nowhere, but majority of these fish are still relating to something. They're relating to long points. They're relating to flats. They're relating to the channel swings. They're relating to still something. They're not just now. There is some fish you'll catch out there in the middle of nowhere, but they're usually related to something. Like down there at Del Hollow, Robbie caught all his fish on a big ass flat. I caught all my fish on the main river channel. So they were still in the river channel up against the bluff, and he was catching his on long flats with points.
But they were all brown.
I was not back button Dustin. That Dustin actually voted 2 of our keepers that day.
Yeah. One, he had to poop, Tim. I was the only one on the boat for a while. Don't lie. I was backboated like heck. And then he was talking junk because I caught one behind him because I was getting backboated.
But I tell you to come up there and fish with me, but you don't. You
Well,
stay
see,
in the back.
I try to live scope and it's like a dance for you, right? And we might as well be playing bump and grind because we up there. I'm only 5'8". You like 6 foot.
Hey, I was still in the boat when you caught that one. I wasn't not out of the boat.
Yeah, but you just got done pooping. We just left the dock, and I just have a boat back to it. Okay. All right.
I will say I don't. Dad says this, and you've said this. I guess I'm hard to live scope with, but
Well, I'm not the best at live scope, obviously. That's why I went out Thursday to kind of get a little better. But so yeah, and it's hard.
Everybody live scopes different. Like for example, I fish with Eric. Eric likes to live scope, and he's very successful with it. He's kicked my butt, and he had 17 pounds last weekend. But he likes to focus on every fish he sees. I only throw at the ones that I think are set up to feed. You know what I mean? So I'm looking for the ones and I'm also the guy that makes 1 or 2 casts on a fish, and then I'm done.
Then you
I
turn
wanna
the head.
try-
Nobody else can see their bait.
Yeah, that's it, Rob. I'll throw it the one he was looking at, trying to figure out if he.
I had one
set up.
following
you
me. Where did
never-
it go?
You don't always have to see it to know if it bites.
Well, I know
But that's
that,
what I was
but
telling
like
Eric,
watching
because
it.
Eric said the same thing. But when I'm working, me and Cal do this so good together when we live scope. Especially if they're shallower, I'm gonna stay on you and the fish the whole time. But when I'm live scoping and they're deeper, okay, I'll scan over and Cal throws on this fish. Okay, he's got a good cast. Okay. And if it's in like 60 foot of water, I know that bait's going to take a while to get there. So I scan off of it, try to find one for me to throw at. Okay, I find me one to throw at. I throw it in. Okay, I made a good cast. I go back to Cal's. By the time I go back to Cal's, he's right there where he needs to be to work that fish. When I can tell that fish is going to bite or not, if it starts following it, then I scan back to mine to start working mine. But I know his is still following it, so he's working that fish.
Hey, I'm throwing at a fish. Gavin's on like fish 5. I don't even know what pointed. I don't even know which way he's pointing. Like he's throwing it over his shoulder towards the back. And I'm like, dude, we were fishing towards the front 2 seconds ago.
But
it's easier to live scope with one person.
It is. Unless you get 2 people that work together like that. Me and Kevin were successful because we both do like that. When you're as a co-angler, if I'm at a co-angler, what I do is when I see him make a cast, I'll let him. Me and Cal's rule: if it's in the front, it's both of ours. If it's on the right, it's mine. If it's on the left, he gets first dibs. If it's on the right, I get first dibs. Not really first dibs, but first cast because it's easier for that.
Hey, when I'm on the front deck, wherever that fish is at, first one in's got dibs.
Listen what I'm going to say. So,
hey, that's why Jake cracks you in the head.
Yeah, that's the reason Jacob hits me in the head with stuff.
if that fish is on the right, then I'll let him make the first cast. Okay, if he's short, then I'll make a longer cast. Okay, if he's left, I'll throw right. If he's right, I throw left. So I correct his mistake with my cast. Now, if he makes a good cast, I don't even throw. And same thing with Cal or whoever I'm fishing with. If it's on the left side, he'll throw first. Okay, if he's made a good cast, then I don't throw at it. But if he made a bad cast, then I critique of where he messed up at. Me and Eric started figuring it out a little bit. It's just everybody does it different, I think, and everybody. So it's just like anything else. You work a crankbait different than me. You work a buzzbait different than me. Dustin works a worm different than me. So like everybody has a different style of fishing and the way that they do it. I want to throw out as many fish as I can instead of just working on one. Yes, it's beat me.
Well, and part of that is where I've only truly fished about 3 tournaments with you, maybe.
Yeah,
it's just experience out there fishing with you. I mean, the more repetitive it is, okay, I know where you're going with it. Cal's fished God knows how many tournaments with you. So
I ain't fished but what, 2 tournaments with you? 1 tournament?
No, we fished 3, I think, not tournaments. They've all been not tournaments.
Yeah.
That first tournament, we fished. I know for sure 2 because we won that one. And we finished second the first one.
That was that tournament you was a good net man.
The one we won. I was good net bet. You were a daggone good net bet on that first one. He was such a good net man. He said, "Dadgummit, tell me up what you got on." Yes, it does get stressful or whatever, and that's just finding who you fish with. Me and Eric, we're good buddies, and at first we wasn't very good together because, like I said, he wanted to focus on one fish for a decent amount of time, but after I know that fish ain't gonna bite, or I throw at it and I can tell to the fish, I move on. I want to try to find as many as I can, and it does hurt me, and I will agree to that. It does hurt me, but it's like fishing high percentage areas. If I can put that bait in front of as many fish as I can, I have a better chance of catching one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like with you on the boat, our best chances when they're in kind of in that mid range, where I can get them cranking, and you can do your thing live scoping them.
When you're sitting in 70 foot of water throwing a DT6.
And it's hard. Also, here it is. Here's another thing. It's like anything else though. Like the first time you fish with somebody, it's harder. It's easier to practice with somebody before you have a tournament. It's hard to kind of adapt to each other's fishing style in a tournament because it can go with anything with live scoping. I might be a guy that loves to go down the burn. Like if I'm fishing with Robbie, he loves to burn down the bank when he's throwing a crankbait. I don't like to burn down the bank when I'm throwing a crankbait, but he does. So that's the same thing as live scoping. It's like me wanting to burn through different fish, and he's wanting to slow down. Robbie likes to burn down the bank with a crankbait, and I want to slow down a little bit. So you're working. It's the same thing with any technique that you're fishing. I might want to sit there and work my jig all the way to the daggone boat, but if the guy I'm fishing with wants to just like hop it a few times and reel it back in, then it's not going to work together. You know what I mean? Like it's
That's when I say, hey, you step right here. I'm fishing faster than you are. I'll run the trolling motor.
Yeah.
Hey, jump in the boat with Rob when they're batting that worm. That boy will be up there putting sunscreen on and everything before he hits the trolling motor. Answering the phone, taking business calls. That
one year, what was it, 2 year ago when we was up there at the worm bite, South Hosting. My co-angler said, "Man, I ain't never fished this slow before."
But when I say it hurts certain people when you fish, like it hurts me when it's tough. Now I think I succeed when it's decently outside, like when it's fishing decent. But the people that fish slower usually excel when it's tough. You know what I mean? But I don't know. I just want to put my bait in front of as many fish as I can.
Rob said no live scope, and here we are for 20 minutes.
Yeah, 20 minutes of non-live scope talk. I mean, can you talk about fishing nowadays without live scope being mentioned?
Not this time of year.
Let's talk. Not this time of year.
You can't. No time of the year. No time of the year. When you start talking about fishing, somebody else say, "You got live scope."
It's almost like
and then it changes the whole story. You're talking about live scope versus what you were talking about.
He said,
"If you're like, oh, you ain't got live scope, nah, oh, okay, weirdo."
If I'm fishing a jig from the back, I'll tell my buddy don't slow down because I fish a jig like Indy 500. I'm kind of the same way, especially if I'm flipping. I flip in there 1, 2, 3, and then I flip somewhere else. 1, 2, 3, and I flip somewhere else. 1, 2, 3, and if I'm fishing a jig, I bounce it a few times and then I throw it up, reel back in, throw it again. But it's all and that's like that with anybody, even the elites. You'll hear different people on podcasts. Hey, I like to pick everything apart, and you got some people that's like, I'm going balls to the walls, and I'm fishing for the ones that will bite.
If I'm flipping, I might pick something apart.
I'll pick it apart, but that doesn't mean you're fishing it slow.
Robert, I think fishing behind you, I've learned if they're biting pretty good, you're more apt to pick it apart. If they ain't biting too good, you're zooming a little bit. If I'm
Okay,
flipping
do you?
I
live,
think-
it's a flipping
I
go.
think that I think on flipping stuff that if they're there, they're gonna bite it.
Okay, so here's for example, this is a thing on Watauga. They get on certain parts of the trees. Okay, say you flipped a whole stretch of bank, and the only places you got bit on is at the base. Next spot you go to, are you only flipping the base, or are you still flipping the whole daggone tree, even though the last bank you went on, you didn't get bit on
Well,
the other parts of the tree?
I'm thinking there's a stupid fish out there, so I'm probably still gonna try to flip on him. It depends on what the structure looks like, and I think there might be a stupid one in there.
How do you pick apart bushes?
I I flip it all the way around it, in it,
Yeah,
every
that's how
little
I do. I
hole I
start
can
on the
get.
right side. I throw the ends, the back. I try to get on the back side, but as I'm coming up to it, the right side, the front of it, the left side, and like dead in the middle of it. But I think with bushes, you don't have to really pick it apart as much, just because they're like I'm talking about Douglas bushes, like the smaller ones. If there's going to be
Yeah.
a fish that's going to feed, it's going to
It's
come
gonna
and
be
eat it,
there.
no matter where it's at.
Yeah.
Let's see. I already said that one. He really does do that. I've seen it in person, and he's successful with it too. I think he's talking about Jared. And then live scoping has changed the game of competitive fishing. Speed jig fishing is a mindset. Put them in every percentage area you can, and that's my mindset with live scope. I want to put my bait in front of the ones that are set up to feed, or the ones that I can see are actively feeding, or just putting my bait in front of as many fish as I can. It's no different than putting your bait in a high percentage area going down the bank.
But if I'm
And
fishing fast and I get a co-angler that's back in the back doing something totally different, flipping, and majority of the time they getting hung up, wanting you to go back,
it gets
and
frustrating.
it does get frustrating. I'm like, crap, what?
Hey,
Okay,
that's
just keep calm.
so y'all are boaters. How often does that happen? Because
A lot.
my boaters get mad at me because I mean, I give them a three. Well, you get me done 3 times, I'm done for the day. I'll break it off.
I have it both. I've had some people that are like, I need to go back for that lure. Now it depends on what it is. Now if it's like if you're like
A finesse
something
work.
that's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Most people will break that off because it's not a. Now, if somebody's going down the bank throwing like a damn glide bait or a spinner bait, and that's his last one, and he's been catching on it, then I'm more curious of going back and getting it
Yeah.
for him because I would want him to do that for me.
See,
Yeah.
my boaters fuss
But
at
I've
me.
had some people that will go freak out and have to go back and get a Ned rig or something.
Let's see, my boaters.
And then they open their box and there's 700 Ned rig heads in
They
there.
don't
And I'm
want
like,
to
really?
retire.
See, my boaters tell me all the
No.
time, and I do. Tell me if you get hung up, I'll go back there and get it. I'm like, nah, you don't. Just keep going. So
Most of mine are like that. I'll say, I'll take you over and get it. And they'll say, I don't worry about it. Or they'll ask. I'll tell them
And
up front.
I think it kind of depends on what you're fishing too.
Yeah.
Because there's certain times where I'll tell the guy, hey man, do you care just to break that off? Because I don't want to get up there and booger those up because I haven't got to the point of breaking everything else down around it. Or if I'm fishing offshore and it gets hung up in the brush pile, hey man, you care to break that off? I don't want to go over top of it. Kind of thing. Because it's in a situation where I would break it off too if I got hung up. You know what I mean?
there has been a time or two that the boater in front of me, man, I was like, dude, he's blowing up every area before he gets to me. I'm like, come on, guy.
I do hate that. They'll get hung on a limb and they'll like shake it and
Yeah.
it's like sitting there splashing
Yeah.
the water. I'm
And
like, dude, it's
there
not
was
going
this
to
much
come
of-
out doing that.
There was this much of the tree
might.
in the water.
It
Now it's like
could.
this.
It could.
I hate the people that when they try to get something undone, they like set the hook into it kind of thing, pulling. I'm like, dude, you're just digging that thing into it more. I'm like, people don't understand when you get hung up, if you give it slack and then kind of just like pop your rod when it's slack in the line, that's how it gets out. Because you're most of the time when something's hung up, the hook's just hooked around it like this. It's not hooked into it. Now, if it's hooked into it, there ain't nothing you're doing to get it out of it. But most of the time, it's just over it. So if you give it slack, it pops it
Plug
off,
knockers.
and then you come up.
Plug knockers get it off.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm just saying.
Send her down.
He said, "Appreciate it, Gavin. I never thought about scoping that way. Actually, makes it easier concept to grasp." Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. It's like everybody fishes different, and everybody has a different mindset on it. So
Yeah.
I feel like I've been successful doing it, and I've also known that it's got my butt kicked doing it that way.
But it's not. Still, the discussion of live scope is not going away.
It's
I mean, we can't
Hey,
even.
even if this happens, even if they banned it, then people gonna be talking about wonder why they banned live scope. I hate that they banned.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a constant from now on until the
I
next new
I
thing
just
comes
wish
out.
everybody would look at it as anything else as an extra tool to catch bass, because that's all it is. It's a different technique.
It ain't a tool. It's
cheat code.
cheat code.
Okay, take
cheaters.
it away at Del Hollow. How bad would you have hated fishing Del Hollow at?
I'd hated Del Hollow.
Not me a bit.
Is that?
Put me
But
on the
how would the weights have been? Who would have figured that out?
It would have been those people that would old school
With what?
Demickey would have caught it.
What 2D?
Mm-hmm. Which is no different than live scope. And hell, I still use 2D when I'm fishing with live scope. I can't tell you how many times I've caught a fish on 2D that I didn't see on my
2D.
live scope. Yes, I do.
All I've seen is live scope up there. Three graphs. He's got one on map and one on live scope. The third one's there.
I started using. I got a new transducer for my 2D now, so it works. So I caught 2 fish Saturday on 2D.
I was just messing with you, man.
I just like stirring the pot. I use live scope, but I like getting people mad and riled up.
Hell, Robbie, you were just talking about getting daggum 3 live scopes on your boat. Talking about how you want to upgrade to a bigger. Hey, I got somebody selling a 12-inch Echo map if you want it.
I'm not sure what I'm gonna do. I might put none on there. I might take live scope off.
You're so full of crap.
We'll pull up for the next season, and Robbie will have those dual live scopes on the back of his
No.
Yeah, and he'll have 2 of them on the front.
I do think that there ought to be a rule on that. How many transducers?
I think there is I think that's the only thing I think. Hell, to me, it messes me up. Like Kevin, he's got 2, and he just called me today, and that's why he's selling the other Echo map. And he's like, I have 2 live scopes because I thought it was going to be beneficial, but I don't ever use the second one. It almost messes me up.
Yeah. Till the next new thing comes out, and there will be.
But does live scope make you lose touch with the basics of finding and catching fish?
Yes, I agree with that.
I don't think I disagree.
I agree with that.
You still got to catch the fish even though you see it. And you still got to know where to look to find these fish.
But knowing how to do it without seeing those fish.
What do you mean?
Like the techniques of just pulling up on a point and making cast, knowing that there's his fish there. I think it does.
You still had to know that that's a point that fish would set up on, even if you didn't have live scope. So somebody that doesn't know nothing about fishing, you put them in a boat with live scope, they're not going to catch fish.
Not necessarily.
Their
opportunity, if they can read it, their opportunity of catching those fish are better.
You put the bait better in front of their face, but you still got to know what to do to get that fish to bite.
I know, but before live scope come out, having to go out and go down the bank or across a point and fish stuff, you was hoping your cast was right where they were at. But seeing it on live scope, being able to see your bait exactly where it's at, I think it does mess with it a little bit.
I can agree with that, but his question was, does live scope make you lose touch with the basics of finding and catching fish? Yeah. I think it does not lose your basics because you still got to know where the fish would be at this time of the year. Robbie, now you're just starting the full crap.
Oh, granddad.
I like controversial.
Even when you agree with it, you try to disagree.
Yeah, if somebody says something about live scope to me at a fishing tournament or something, I agree. If they say, "Man, I hate live scope," don't you? I say, "Yeah, I do too."
But then when somebody's like, "Man, I love live scope," he's like, "I love it too." I just
think I
wish
already
I had
banned
the,
it.
I wish I had the recording of Robbie when he learned how to live scope. Man, I want like 4 of these things on my boat now. Dustin, you was with him. I know you wasn't.
Well,
with
no,
him.
that was the day before I got down there.
Yeah.
He was tickled pink.
But
but then the next day he was pissed off. He was hating it again.
yeah, I did.
And like, I know you're messing with, but it also goes back to what we were talking about earlier. You said I'm like doing this all the time, and just because you can see them doesn't mean that you know how to present that bait the best way on live scope to get them to bite. Because you got to know what direction they're moving. You got to know how your return is, because just because you see your bait and the fish doesn't mean it's perfectly over top of them. So you got to learn live scope with the technique. It's a technique you got to learn. You can't just put it on your boat and get good at it. Dustin, for example, knows what I'm talking about because he went out there a separate day to try to learn it, because it's not as easy as what people think it is.
Well, no, it's not easy, but the percentage, the chances of you catching those fish are a whole lot better. Versus when I first started fishing, we used a depth finder to see how deep it was, not to look at fish because they wasn't worth crap.
He said, Eric said it helps locate them. Every fish is different. Also, some want it in a certain way, and I agree with that. It does help you.
I mean, I agree with y'all, but here's what I disagree with. You're blindfolded and you're throwing a cast out there hoping there's a fish there. The odds of you catching a fish is very low. Looking at it on a graph and seeing everything, your odds has greatly increased.
Yeah, you have a better odds, but it's no different.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I mean, if you go bet on the Super Bowl and you could see into the future and see what the score was, your odds are going to be a lot better at winning.
But it still doesn't take away of
McFly.
Hey, I'm working up this car. We're going to go back into the future.
But here's the thing, though. Like, I told Kenzie this the other day. I told her, I said, I would love to go back into like the early 2000s before there was this much technology in fish. I really would. And I think that's what a lot of people are upset about, is they think that all these people get it just because that's the only way they compete. They can't, like, that's the only way that they're good at fishing. But a lot of these people, a lot of people have these on their boat because they know that's what they have to do to compete.
I know too many local guys that fish shallow all the time. I don't even think I don't think they even got live scope. I don't even know if they even look at graphs and they compete.
I'm talking about the pros and all these people that fish competitively. But there's certain lakes that you can do that. Cherokee, if you took live scope off of our boat, Robbie, you would still win tournaments. I would have still caught those fish I caught last year when I was fishing up there with you.
Except for this time of year, I'm sure the tournaments won this weekend was won by live scope.
Yeah, certain time of the year that could sell. When they're on the bed, live scope don't do you no good. You're looking at them with your own two eyes.
I think all live scopers live scope year round. Leave the bed fish alone. It's shallow.
Yeah.
Hey, me and Dustin. Hey, speaking about spawning, me and Dustin had 17 pounds, and second place was 12 pounds, and everybody was bed fishing, and we were live scoping.
Hey, the one I pulled out from under the dock while you were pooping was on bed.
It probably was. Yeah. On a crankbait, though. I don't know how that works, but
I don't know.
You probably snagged it.
Y'all are DQ.
He was just sitting there with his mouth open. That crankbait just ran right into its mouth.
Probably.
No, but that fish was more likely on bed, or he was garden fry, either one.
He was hungry. That's all I cared about.
He was hungry. Would I rather catch them live scoping or cranking? Cranking.
I mean, I would. It's a lot more fun catching them that way, cranking up shallow. Beating. Hell, I would give anything to live near Gunnersville and be able to punch and throw a rattle trap and all that kind of stuff instead of worrying about catching them over 100 foot of water.
You'd be out there still trying to live scope.
At certain times, yeah. I mean, what Jacob Willard wanted at live scoping,
Yeah.
but
I just like aggravating you. I get you riled up over live scope.
I guess I get riled up because I just hate how people just look at it as, oh, it's so easy to catch a fish that you have it on your boat. Because I don't think it's easy.
I think they ought to let us use cameras.
Aquaview.
Yeah, so we can see what kind of fish they really are.
Well, you know, Gussie used it during practice.
I think
you
it
can
ought to
use
be
it during
used.
practice.
You ought to be able to use it during the competition.
You think they're gonna bite that son of a gun with a camera? Right here.
I had an 8-pounder trying to eat the blade off a trolling motor when I picked it up out of the water one day and I hit the pedal.
But no, they're scared of the boat and they're scared of live scope and transducer.
I don't believe that. I don't think they're afraid of boats and all that.
I think
Even
when they get
like in the
pressured, they know
classic,
you're there.
in our classic in the White Pine, I had one blow up at the boat and missed a.
How many fish have you caught
whopper
deep
popper.
cranking and they bite it right at the boat or right underneath the boat?
A bunch.
A bunch.
That one missed it at the boat, and then I was mad, so I had about, I don't know, 12, 13 inches of line out, and I sloshed it around right at the boat, mad, and it come back out and eat it. So I don't think that scares them.
I can't tell you how many fish I've had on glide bait freaking follow it all the way to the boat, and like their noses almost touch my trolling motor. Tim said this is a serious question. If y'all are fishing an open rodeo, how many places would you expect to pay out if you had between 30 and 50? I like to say every 7.
That's going to say every 7, right?
Every 6, I think we pay every 6 spots. Or try to.
Which, I mean, that ain't bad. That ain't much different. 6 to 7.
6 or 7. Listen, in rodeos, you're not going to get rich in a rodeo, no way.
Unless it's like a $100 rodeo.
Yeah, unless you still ain't gonna be rich off of that. But if like, say there was 30 boats and they paid, if you went 7 boats, that would be what, 4 places, and they paid 7 or 8 places to make people happy.
So it's a $60 entry fee. Pot gets pretty big. I would probably, and say you get like 100 boats or whatever, I probably wouldn't go below 10 payout if you get up to 100.
Yeah, but most of your small rodeos and stuff ain't getting that.
Yeah, no. The most I've ever seen in a rodeo is like close to 50 or 60.
I say every 6 or 7. I mean, that's just seems to be the happy-go-lucky number, right?
When you pay too many spots out, then first place guy
doesn't get what they deserve.
They don't get really what they deserve, and to me, I don't think everybody ought to get a trophy. Scenario. Well, just participation. And I think when you get to paying too many spots, that's all it is to make people happy and say, hey, there's several times that I've got like the last check in these little rodeos that pay a lot of spots, and I won $15 after I split it with my partner.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, how many times did me and you we finished second? No, we won that one rodeo, and there was almost 30 boats in it, and we maybe only came home with $100 a piece.
Yeah, it wasn't even that.
Yeah, I think it was 80-60 is what we split actually.
Yeah. So I mean, I would rather pay less spots.
Now entry fee was
win
only
more.
$25, but he still pays down to like 6 spots.
Yeah, depending on how many's there. If there was 20 boats there, he'd pay 4 or 5 spots.
Yeah.
Sometimes, but I just think that the payout you are to win more than what you spend if you won the tournament.
Yeah.
And
I
if
agree with
you're getting the last check and you're not even getting your entry fee back, I mean it's just a waste.
Yeah.
That's just saying, hey, we're glad when you come out and fished with us. Here's your $15.
Yeah. Go buy some McDonald's on the way back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you either win or
That's
you
why I
lose.
think that's what I was saying about 10. I said I think if you get over a certain amount of boats, you should have a cutoff of how many spots you pay.
Yeah. You should.
Especially if you're like projecting to have 70 to 100 boats, cut it off at like 5.
Look at the payouts in the BFLs.
Yeah.
They're not very
Let's just look at that real quick. If they would cut it off at a certain time. Let's look at that. I know we're running out of time, but
at 200.
no,
200 full field.
Let's just say it's like a normal field. So what was a decent field last year?
150. 140.
What was the biggest one we fished in? The
We
first
had
one at Chick?
160. Yeah, we had 170. Was it 178? They paid 40 spots. That almost 40. Had 190 because I think
Or was that regional?
no
At Chick, the last place they marked was 190, 39th, but that's the last person that weighed the fish in, and there's probably another good 30
how many did
after
they pay?
that.
How many did they pay in that one?
They paid 39 spots.
39, and I finished 41st.
207 was the last payout. They would have cut that off at 20. Your payout would have been, yeah, it would have been a lot better. 20th there got 395, but you take out from 21st all the way down to basically 40th money, then you're going to get a lot more money. And like that means that the people that finished second and third would have won more money too, because that person that finished second only won $2,900 in a almost probably about right at almost 200 boat field. Like that's not good at all.
But
if I finish second over 200 boats, I should get paid more than $2,900.
Yeah, but they pay 20% of the field.
I think it should be a cutoff of 20.
20 spots.
Yeah, if you keep the same entry fee, if you want to up the entry fee, then
no, they keep the same entry fee and up the money they pay back.
Yeah, that would be the best. Hell, they lowered the entry fee of the BBT tour.
I mean, you think about these trails, probably the best one around here for the money, and it's very tough to compete, is Morristown Marine. But they're averaging what, 230 to 250.
Me and Kevin finished fourth last year, made $2,900. Fourth. Yeah. We pay just as much as we pay for
what is an entry fee? 140, 130.
And it's actually cheaper, 150. It's 150. So it's cheaper than the BFLs. Fourth, and this one was only $1,200.
But now they are averaging. What they averaged this past year, 250 boats.
He said, but how many boats weigh in a limit of 5 bass out of 50 boats? I'm just gonna say half the average, which would be 25 boats.
Yeah.
Well, we're at the hour mark. It was a good podcast.
Yep.
We're gonna have a special guest on next week. By the way, it's gonna be pretty cool for the people that's in here. Wayne Bettis is his name. He's owner of Wayno's Custom Lures. He's a sponsor of mine, but he's gonna be talking about his company and how he got started. but he also knows a lot about the history of bass fishing. He knows everything about Johnny Morris and all that kind of stuff, about how bass was created and all that kind of stuff. So it's going to be a really good, very interesting podcast. So if you're very interested in the history of bass fishing, next weekend will be a really good podcast to listen to. So be looking out for that. We're going to market it. We're going to talk to him this week, kind of get an idea of more what he exactly wants to talk about. Be thinking about any questions that y'all might have, because it actually might be a little bit longer of a podcast just because of how much he does know.
You mean I'm gonna miss longer part of the Super Bowl?
We can find live updates then now. What time does the Super Bowl start on Sunday?
8.
8. We'll keep live updates.
Say we can do it Saturday night.
Saturday night. Wait, hey, we could do No, I don't know.
We could do it earlier. You all want to try to do it earlier?
I don't know if I can get home in time.
I got a tournament at 3:30.
You got a tournament at 3:30?
Well, it ends at 3.
I was just saying the viewers probably won't be that great.
Y'all want to try it Saturday then?
We can do it Saturday night if Rob's good with it.
I'll see if he's good with it. He should be good with it, but we'll let y'all know if this weekend doesn't work out. We'll let you know a date, and we'll try to figure out something. But y'all stay tuned for that. I'll post everything about it. Yeah, Saturday at 8 sounds pretty good. We just got to make sure that he can do it that Saturday. Rob has no faith in the viewers. No, I mean, he is kind of right, though. But y'all stay tuned for that. It'll be a really good podcast. We'll let you know exactly what day it is. But
he also has no hair. Look at that shiny head. Good.
Yeah, y'all are just jealous.
Well, y'all have a good night.
When you look as good as me, you don't have no hair. With you boys, you got to put a bunch of hair on your head to cover up.
Hey, if the moon's out, he don't even have to turn his nav light on in the back. He just hits his head.
Hey, I just got a text message to Matt from MMA. Let's talk about that just for a second. We never talked about it. I know it's late, but Scott Martin blew it out of the water. But my boy Matt Adams, which is part of MMA, he's the owner. He finished 5th in his first Open he fished, which was pretty awesome. But he just contacted me and said that he would be interested in coming on the podcast. So we might have a Bassmaster Open top 5 finisher and hopefully a winner soon on the podcast. So be looking out for that as well. Kind of know about how I'm sure he will talk about how he got started with making rods and what goes into it and all that kind of stuff. So we'll have him on here as well coming up. So if we'll see how that goes, kind of work around his schedule with the opens. But yeah, y'all have a great night and see y'all next week.
See ya.